Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so this video, it's just a little thought that crossed my mind, so it's probably going to be a short video, hopefully. Okay, so how do I say this? Okay, so one thing I've noticed, and I think some of you guys, maybe a lot of you guys go through too, there will be people that will get upset at you because you're happy. Now here's something I want to kind of point out and make clear here. I'm not always happy, I'm not always in a good mood, and things don't always work out perfectly for me. But I'm actually a pretty happy guy most of the time. Now there's a reason for that. I've been through a lot of NLP therapy, Ericksonian hypnotherapy. I've done a ton of energy healing. I've been through seminar after seminar after seminar. Like there was 12 years there where I went to at least 4 major seminars that were minimum 5 days up to 5 weeks long every single year for 12 years. You know, one thing that I've been doing very recently, the last 3+ months, it might have been 6 months, but definitely the last 3 months, I've been hitting the books. Now, these are all NLP Ericksonian type books from Dr. Bandler, Dr. Grinder, etc., etc. And one thing I want to say is when you go through the exercises, you do them yourself. So there's just one other thing that I cleared up, or it's not just clearing things, it's shifting things. That's really what a big part of NLP is about. Now, energy healing is about healing stuff. Sometimes it's not about healing at all. It's really a misunderstanding or not having the unconscious strategy to deal with certain situations. By the way, the music volume will go down in about 30 seconds. Now, for those of you who have followed my channel for at least 4 years, 4.5, 5 years, you've heard a lot of nightmare stories, things that I've been through. The reason why I say that is because a lot of people are like, God, you're just so happy-go-lucky. It's like, well, yeah, but it came with a price. I have been through the battles, a lot of battles. And being an empath, I was pretty naive to evil people. It's one of the problems that empaths have. We just look at everyone as, oh, they're good. And we will overlook when they do the worst things in the world, not only to other people, but to ourselves. I definitely had that. So most of my clients, when I work with them, they'll tell me their stories and what's going on. I'm like, oh, well, that's not too bad. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'll tell them a few things that happened to me. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea. Because most people just think, oh, you just lived this blessed life. You've never had anyone F with you. You've never had any bad things. I mean, I have had tons and tons of just unbelievable nightmares, things that people would like. It was a therapist years ago, like, Michael, it's like you went through Auschwitz. Except it didn't last 6 months or 2 years. It lasted decades. Alright, here's my point. I'm not trying to get you to feel sorry for me. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. It's like, no, that's not my point. My point and or purpose is to say, look, this came at a price. It wasn't handed to me. It was a freaking nightmare. But there are some qualities that I have. But before that. Alright, so before that though, number one, what I want to point out is I've done a ton of different forms of therapy, techniques that I learned that I can do on myself. And I've done a lot of work. I put a lot of time into it. And yeah, I'm at a place where I'm much more confident and much more happy. Things are just going better for me. And so so now here is I guess the point or the message of that is, and we'll call this part 2 or section 2 or number 2, is you can do it too. You see, a lot of people do not truly believe, and I mean truly, you're like, oh yeah, well, I can go to psychotherapist for like 10 years and deal with my issues, and No, that's not what I'm talking about. You can actually heal issues. You can actually shift issues. You can learn. See, a lot of times it's you just don't have certain social skills and you didn't even know there was such a thing. There's a lot of times there's just patterns or behaviors that you just don't have. And you're like, well, why does that person have them? Like they seem so agreeable, or they're so social, or they're so whatever. It's because there's something else that's going on inside that you don't have that we can install. Okay, here's another thing. A lot of times you have behaviors and how do I say this? It's the intention, or at least, your intention is you want this outcome. Now, here is like if there was one main thing, it's probably not the only thing, but it is a big chunk of the work I do with people, why people are so screwed up and they're not happy and they're miserable and they're frustrated. They don't understand why they're not happy, why they're not getting what they want. Is a lot of people will have a behavior to get a certain outcome. The problem is that behavior does not get that outcome. And a lot of these behaviors are completely unconscious. They're outside of your awareness. You don't even know you're doing it. And after years and years, and what most people do, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to try that behavior harder. I'm going to work harder, or I'm going to do it more often, or I'm going to do it faster. It still doesn't work because that behavior will never get you that outcome. One of the things I have to do is pull this information out and show it to you. And you're like, wow, I've been doing that for 15, 20, 25 years. It's never worked yet. I always thought, well, the reason why I do this is because I want that. And I never made the connection of it's never gotten me that. There's a reason why some people are filthy rich. There's a reason why some people just seem to be successful. It's the unconscious strategies and behaviors that they have. Some of them develop them through coaching, through a strategy elicitation, NLP, or through whatever. Somehow, some way, they develop this way of thinking, being, and seeing things. Now, as an NLP trainer, that's what we're trained to do. We are trained to see what's going on with you on an unconscious level. We're trained to look at what's called belief conflicts, rules conflicts, values conflicts, strategies that are just not working at all. Okay, I'm going to give you a real story. God, I've got so many of them. All right. I had this one client. I'm going to give you two. I'm going to make this quick. I had this one client that came to me because for dating and relationship coaching. And the funny thing was he made very good money. I think he made like $250,000 a year, or $300,000. He was in the computer industry, I don't know, whatever you call it. And he made really good money. Had a really nice car. Had a great place in San Francisco. He just had connections. And yet he had a really, really hard time actually getting a date and getting not necessarily getting a date, but getting it to the point where they could make love, where they established a relationship, and it was going somewhere. So after a few sessions, he goes, well, what I do, and his ego came up. He goes, oh, I took her out and I spent about $800 on her. I took her out to dinner, spent about $400, and then I took her out to this club, spent $200 on champagne and whatever else, and this and this and that. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. So I'm like, really? Well, the next night I spent about $400 on it, and he kept going on and on and on. I go, okay, so what's your purpose for doing this? He goes, well, I want to make love to her. I want to have sex, and I want to get into a relationship. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's a really good way to do it. And he goes, no, it's a great way. He goes, it's the fastest way. I'm like, it's the fastest way? Are you sure? Now, this was his strategy, spending a lot of money, trying to impress her and do all these things. And I said, oh, okay, so have you guys made love yet? And he's like, well, no, not yet. I'm like, well, have you guys kissed yet? He goes, well, no, not yet. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, how long have you been dating? Now I'm expecting him to say like 2 weeks or 10 days or something like that. And he goes, a little over 3 months. Sorry, I had to giggle there a little bit. Sorry. I keep cutting it off. Okay, so what happened was, I'm like, really, 3.5 months? Haven't even gotten a kiss yet? I'm like, I don't think she's really that interested. He's like, no, she's totally into me. I'm like, no, I don't think so. So we added up what he spent. It was insane amount of money. It was thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm like, wait, you gotta be kidding me, dude. So here's the point. it was a strategy that clearly wasn't working, and this wasn't the first woman. He's been doing it for years, and he came to me because I can't never really seem to get it to the next level. I'm like, yeah, you're not getting it to any level. All right, real quick thing, guys. To get it to the next level, buy my book, Crack the Female Code. All right, so then I had another client. Okay, now this client, I'm going to give a little bit more details. So he had spent a lot of money traveling Europe and coming to America and taking these really, really expensive pickup artist courses, dating courses, etc. I'm like, well, so and here's the thing, he was really proud about how much money he spent, thousands and thousands of dollars on the courses alone. And he's like, these are the best in the world, and I went and studied under so-and-so and so-and-so and such and such, and I did a 2-week course in Las Vegas and all this stuff. And then I said, oh, really? Wow, okay, for what purpose? He goes, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what was your purpose for spending all that money for 10 years, or I think it was 8 or 10 years, traveling around the world, spending all the money, airfare, hotels, and the courses? He goes, well, I told you I want to get a girlfriend. And then I said, well, how well? And I started like this, how well has that worked for you? And he goes, looks at me, what? I go, how well has that worked for you? Now, I actually said it much louder than that and much more obnoxious. Now, I said it really loud twice, and he kind of leaned back like, whoa, and because here's the deal. A lot of time, okay, I like to say guys, but it's people in general. We have these strategies. This is not about dating relationships, by the way. This is really a good way to explain this. We have these unconscious strategies that we don't really, what's the word I'm looking for? We don't really connect the purpose. Like, what am I doing this for? Well, what do you want? Well, I'm doing this behavior to get this outcome. So I said to him, and he goes, well, it's been working great. And I'm like, really? Are you sure about that? He goes, well, yeah. He goes, these are the best courses in the world. And I go, so what was your purpose for taking the course? He goes, I told you. He goes, I want to date and meet girls for a while, and then I want to get married. He said, because in my culture and my family, he goes, Michael, I'm 32 years old, and my mother and father are kind of pissed. Like, hey, he's past due. They expect him to be married in his mid to late 20s at worst. Now he's in his 30s, and his whole family's like, they're mad. So I'm like, well, how long you've been going down this journey of, getting really good at this? And he goes, well, I told you it's been about eight years. I don't remember, it might have been 10 years, but it was a long time and a huge financial investment and time investment. So then I screamed out again, how well has that worked for you? And I screamed, how well? I was super loud, how well has that worked for you? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, okay, so what is your intention? Now here's the thing, you not believe how often I'll have to say this to someone. What was your intention for doing all of that, for taking those courses? Because I told you, my parents expect me to get married, and I can't seem to meet a girl, and I can't do this, and I can't do that. And then I scream even louder, how well has that worked for you? Most people do not connect their behavior with their outcome at all. They're not conscious of it at all. If there's one thing I could tell you to do, to write down, even right now, everything you do, I want you to ask yourself a question. What's my outcome? What do I want from this? The other thing I want you to ask is, what is my purpose for doing this? In other words, for listening to my video right now, what is my purpose for listening to Mike Kollin's video, or the YouTube video that I'm listening to right now? What is my purpose for calling this person? If you were to stop and ask yourself, what is my purpose for calling this person? Well, I want to talk about this. And then say, for what purpose? Well, I want to find this out, or I want them to understand this. And then just ask it one more time. For what purpose? What's your purpose for getting them to find this out or learn this from you, or you finding it out from them? If you can go up to the third level or more, you will have what's called clarity, and you'll be conscious of what your purpose is, and that'll steer the conversation in a much better direction. Right there, that's therapeutic. I just gave you a way to develop a very simple strategy to say, well, what's my purpose for listening? And you get an answer. Okay, well, what's my purpose for that? Then you get another answer. Well, what's my purpose for that? You might have to go up one or two more, but at this point, you're getting a real solid direction, and you're understanding what you're doing. Another question is very similar. It's essentially the same thing. Well, what's my outcome for listening to this video? Like, what do I want to get out of this? And then say, for what purpose? For what purpose? Being consciously aware of your outcome is huge in life, because what it will do, it will reveal, hey, wait a minute. I've spent 8 to 10 years and I've spent over $30,000 on these pickup artist courses, and I'm still single, and I haven't been on a date in 2 years. Maybe your strategy's not working. And same thing with the first guy. He was just spending thousands of dollars on this girl, and I'm just like, I don't think your strategy. Oh no, it works great. And I'm like, okay, and this is what I said. I go, okay, so what is your purpose for being here? He goes, what do you mean? I go, well, I'm charging you thousands of dollars to take this course. What's your purpose for doing this? He goes, oh, well, I mean, I want to meet a girl. I'm like, okay, and then what? And then he went up the line. I'm like, so if your other strategy's working so good, then what are you doing here? He goes, well, I told you I want to meet it. And you would not believe how oblivious people would be. He still didn't make the connection. On the one hand, his strategy is not working. And on an unconscious level, he's aware that it's not working. And that's why he's here. One of the first things I do with people when they work with me, I get them really clear on what their purpose is. Like, so they're conscious. A lot of people come to me unconscious. They heard me say something, they thought it was cool, but they never really consciously realize, well, what is my purpose for working with Mike? One of the greatest things, the most powerful things I've learned, and one of the simplest things that simplifies your life, is being clear on your outcome and knowing your purpose, because this makes it clear to you consciously and unconsciously the direction that you want to go in, and now you won't spin in circles, and that's what most people do. And this is a form of therapy. This is what I learned at NLP Tony Robbins seminar, and I use this in the therapeutic classes and one-on-one coaching when I work with people, is getting people clear on every little thing, like what's your purpose for doing this technique, what's your purpose for this and that, and they become very clear. It moves things along. I had a guy, this was about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years now. I mentioned him briefly in a video a couple months ago. He called me, he heard my narcissist abuse videos, and I forget, I said something now. He was having problems in the corporation that he owned. He was one of the top 5 owners or whatever. I forget how, like investors. And they had this, these were like the main people, like they make the decisions, and he was one of them. And they were having major problems within the group. And all I did, and I started realizing, like, oh, they don't know what their purpose is, so they're spinning in circles. All I did is said, so what is your purpose for calling me? What is your purpose for this? He goes, well, this, that. And then I led it back to his business, the corporation. It was a multi-billion-dollar corporation, by the way. And he goes, He goes, I never thought about that. So the group itself didn't have focus, didn't have purpose, didn't know what direction they were going in. So I said, so what's your purpose in the meetings? And what's your purpose for that and that and that? And boom, something popped, bing. He goes, oh, I got it. He goes, that's what it is. Hung with the phone, sent me a $200 tip. Through PayPal, by the way. By the way, there is a link in the description box beneath the video. It's a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. I would really, really appreciate it. For what purpose? So I can buy some hot chocolate, read more NLP books, and bring you better information. Alright, so here's the deal. I'm not saying that one day I went to one seminar and pop, everything was perfect. No, I learned one thing here, I learned a dozen things here, half a dozen things there. I read this book, I read that book, I reread this book 5 times. Like, there's something that I learned recently that something I'm trained in, one of the techniques, and it was one of the simplest little things. It was one little smidget of adding to this technique, and pop, it made it that much better. That's one of the things I've learned from sports, is if you want to get good, it's the littlest, tiniest improvements that take you to the next level. So the purpose of this video is to sit here and say, look, I didn't wake up this way. I wasn't born this way. I put a lot of time, effort, and work. And the work I put into sports has absolutely transferred over into my therapeutic NLP energy healing career. There's a reason why I'm good at what I do. It's because I learned a lot of things in sports. Now here's the deal, though. There was guys that, they showed up, but even when they're in the outfield, when the coach was hitting the balls in the outfield, they were talking to each other, balls were flying past them, and I'm like, what the? And I would have, as a catcher, I'd like, what the F are you guys doing? You're not even paying attention. They're like, oh shit, sorry. They didn't want to improve. But me, I wanted to be the best. When you have that motivation in anything you do, you start paying attention a lot closer. There's another thing that I learned. Pay attention a lot closer. Focus in. Learn things. Pick up the little things. Develop the little things. Practice. So what I'm saying is, this is what coaching will do for you. It'll show you things that you're like, okay, I've worked with men, young men, or even men in their 30s and 40s who they go, I don't understand, like, why do other guys just fly by me when it comes to dating relationships? You know, I used to work in this corporation. They joined 2 years later. They flew right by me, went right up the ladder, and I started coaching them like, man, I did not know that. I'm like, yeah, they were using the right brain. The right brain, if you want to get ahead in corporations, you better learn how to develop those internal awareness and social skills. One of the mistakes that men make, especially if they're very left brain, like, okay, I was one of them when I was younger. I was always the best at what I did. I was the best catcher, the best hitter, the best whatever. And yet there were times when, like, wait, why is that guy getting ahead of me? Like, okay, you know when it started? Is when we graduated from high school. I got better grades than these guys. I did better in school. I was a harder worker, you know, blah, blah, blah. Everything I did, I was better. But by the time I was 25, I noticed these guys were flying right past me financially when it came to other things in life, the corporate world, like whatever it was. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what am I missing? And I'll tell you where I learned it. Because these guys are always drinking every Friday and Saturday night, getting drunk, hanging out, doing nothing, while I'm running laps, I'm doing my push-ups and sit-ups, I'm in the gym working out, you know. But these guys are going to the dance and going to parties and hanging out with their friends, and the same thing in college. I was on the wrestling team, so I stayed focused, I stayed in, did my homework at night, did this, while all these guys are out partying, joining the, not the sororities, but the fraternities, you know, and I didn't get it, like, what's the deal? So here I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing, and these guys over here are screwing off. They're getting average grades or maybe B's at best, and they're getting drunk, hanging out with their fraternity friends and hanging out with people and doing all this stuff. Well, here's what happened. When I was about 31, I finally started going to clubs. Man, was I uncomfortable. I did not like bars, and I didn't get it, man. I remember it was like, what the hell's going on here? And like, nobody wanted to talk to me. And like, I don't get it. Like, it kind of felt like going to high school dance again. Like, nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody wanted to be around me. And like, I didn't understand why. It was because I was too serious. I was too focused. I was too logical. I was too left brain. So somebody said something. I forget what they said, but they said, well, you got to develop your social skills. And I remember, I remember my high school girlfriend said, her girlfriend's mom said that. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. And then, what, you know, I didn't even know that I didn't know what it meant. I mean, that's how, especially for men, like, we don't get that. So I made it what's the word? I made it a commitment. There's another word I'm looking for, but I made a commitment to, like, I'm going to go to clubs 5 nights a week for 2 years. I'm going to figure this out. I don't know. And I did. Now, here's something that happened, though. I remember it was a female. I don't remember who it was. And I remember talking to her, like, yeah, I don't get why I don't get the vibe. I don't whatever. And she goes, well, wait a minute, aren't you an NLP trainer? I'm like, yeah. She goes, Michael, that's social skills. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, the rapport skills, the predicate system. I'm like, oh. So I started using those things, and all of a sudden, click, everything started to work. People started to talk to me. I was like, okay. And then here's another thing that I learned. There is an unspoken dress code, number one, and there's an unspoken, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe I'm going to get a story that'll bring it back. But there's an unspoken set of rules on how you interact with each other, how you socialize, and you have to learn them. And the thing is, you learn them just by going. You learn unconsciously. So I just kept going. I bought some nicer shirts. I bought some dress jeans, dress shoes. I started, getting a little bit of a style, and I got comfortable with that. And then I got comfortable working with people, talking to people. And I had a client who's a lawyer. And I forgot how we got into this conversation, but I said, because he said, you know what? I don't go to clubs. And I forget what he said. I think he said, I just don't get it or something like. And I said, it's funny. That's where I was at my whole life until about a year ago. He goes, what do you mean? I go, well, I don't know how to explain it, but there's like there's an unspoken dress code. Like there's a set of rules. Like, hey, you have to dress within this way, and then there's an unspoken set of rules on how you interact with each other on every little thing. Like, how do you deal with the bouncer? How do you deal with a person that coming in the door? Just like there's all kinds of unspoken rules. Now, when I say unspoken, even people that are probably going to clubs right now and have been going for 10 years, they're like, what are you talking about? What unspoken rules? They're literally not spoken. You have to learn them unconsciously. And he said, you know what? You're right. It's like being a lawyer. When you go to court, you're expected to dress a certain way. You're expected to address the judge in a certain way, to address your opponent in a certain way, to interact. He goes, there is a series of rules that you have to learn how to do. Now, here's the thing, though. They actually get taught how to do that. In a club situation, though, here's the difference. It's your right brain. So if you walk in there in your left brain, you're not going to do it right, and people won't gain rapport with you, and they're not going to like you. They're not going to want to talk to you. And this is what I started realizing. Oh, no wonder why people didn't want to talk to me. So for the first time in my life, I was having the time of my life. It was awesome. I had all these friends and the bouncer and the managers and just everything. And this transferred over going into restaurants, how to interact. And the owner of one restaurant took me under his wing, and he just would like give me free stuff and my dates and blah, blah, blah. It was just like all of a sudden life started to shift and everything started to open up. Now, this is something that's extremely therapeutic because now, not only for me, I used to have tremendous anxiety going to clubs. I was terrified. When I say terrified, I mean terrified because you're like, all these people are interacting and getting along and having fun, and you're just like, yeah, and when you try to talk to someone, they look at you and they turn away or they walk away. It is the most uncomfortable feeling in the world. It's terrifying. So I would work with people, men, let's say, for the dating relationship coaching course. And they would come to me saying, hey, I'm on medication for anxiety, and I've got anxiety issues, and I'm afraid to go to clubs, and I don't know how to interact, and I'm afraid, anxiety. And it turns out, now here's the really interesting thing. Watch this. I started to realize, so I would tell them, like, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to take the course, Crack the Female Code. We're going to go through that. It's a 5 or 6 day course. You're going to get this down. Then we're going to practice this stuff, okay? Because after the 5 days, 6 days, you got to practice it until you have it down to where you can actually do these social skills, these body language, etc., etc. Now, after working with men for 3, 4, 5 years, maybe 6 years, it just hit me in the head like a brick. They didn't have anxiety. They didn't have social skills, and because of that, even at the office, they didn't know how to socialize with people. And this is what causes tremendous anxiety. You go home alone, you got a good job, you got a nice car, you're a good-looking person, you're healthy, you're strong, and yet you don't have a date, you don't have friends, nobody hangs out with you. You're like, what's going on? And here's the deal. You really believe, well, I need more therapy. A lot of these men have been in therapy for years and years, and they're like, nothing works. Because nothing was wrong with you. You just had to learn how to, number one, open up to your right brain. Because when you go to a club or a social event, and now here's the deal, a business party is a social event. A lot of these men will come with their left brain, being Mr. Logical Linear, and follow the rules. Well, the rules, and they look at you like, they look up and down, they judge your clothes. And the left brain's the judgmental brain. It's the judger brain. They're looking at you, they're judging, they're doing comparison. Either or, am I better than them? Is my clothes not? And nobody wants to be around that shit. And then you talk about football and baseball, and and you can't even socialize outside of these really tight constraints. So you will only relate to these kinds of people. So outside of that, you're like, man, I really would like to go talk to that girl, or that group looks like they're having a fun time, but I'm going to talk about football. And they're like, oh, okay, man, yeah. And then they turn on you. And then you're back to feeling like shit, and you go home sweating and crying. So I think you get what I'm saying is, so here's the really cool thing. I started telling my clients, I go, you may not have anxiety. Like, no, Michael, I've been to a lot of psychotherapists and I'm on medication. I'm like, no, I think once you actually learn how to socialize with people, and then they see, here's the deal. When you learn how to do it, they relax around you, and then they turn towards you and they open up to you and they start having a conversation with you. This is a process you have to learn how to do. Here's what I noticed. I think with every client, every single client except for one, their anxiety suddenly disappeared. Not only get going to clubs and parties and going out at night, but at the workforce, going to work, hanging out with people at lunch, and on and on. Alright, so what is my purpose for sharing all of this with you? A lot of times you think there's something wrong with you when there's nothing wrong with you. It could be that you're lacking social skills and awareness. Maybe there's some basic understanding that you just... Now here's the deal. You might think, oh, well, that's because I'm stupid. No, it's not. I am telling you, I have gone through this on a lot of different issues, on a lot of different things. It would just be like, I don't understand. What the hell am I doing wrong? Now, fortunately, luckily, maybe intelligently, I got into the perfect industry to figure this stuff out. There's a technique that we're taught in NLP that's called modeling. You literally learn how to model people, and you see, you can copy their body language, but also their eye patterns are showing you the unconscious strategies that they're using. And then you listen to the linguistics of the patterns, the strategies of how they're languaging and the things that they're doing. You're like, oh, I see what they're doing. And you begin to pick up on the stuff. And then you can go not only install it in yourself, but then you can teach it to others. Now, part of that modeling process is how I can figure out what's going on with someone. There's a series of questions that we ask people. We're looking for the unconscious responses and on and on and on. And now I can see, here's the thing. When people come to me like, man, how did you figure that out so fast? I'm like, well, it's what I do. And after a while, you get really, really, really good at it. A lot of times, people that will come to me, they've been in therapy for decades, and they'll come work with me. Sometimes it's the first session, not always, but sometimes. And if it's not the first, it may be the second or third or fourth session. Like, oh, I see what's going on. They have a huge, gap between their strategy or their behavior and their outcome of what they really want, and they don't see it. So once I point it out, and here's the deal, you see, because things are so unconscious, I can tell someone directly to their face and show them. I can write it down in the patterns and what they're doing, and they'll be like, man, I don't understand, I don't get it. And so I'm like, man, and a lot of times I'll have to be like, how well, like, and I'm telling you, with a lot of times with men, I've had to just scream, how well has that worked for you? And finally, okay, Adam was the guy who went to all the courses, and he looked at me and he finally, this is after about the 10th time of me screaming, I'd say, okay. And because I'm telling you, I would go, what was your purpose for taking all those courses? He goes, I told you. Now here he's yelling at me. I go, what? I go, if they're so goddamn great, what's your purpose for being here? He goes, I told you. He goes, oh, I see what you're saying. So it is kind of funny, but even though I can see something that is so crystal clear, sometimes it takes quite a bit to get the other person to be like, oh, because there's kind of this fog, like, well, I do this to get this outcome. I'm like, yeah, but that behavior, that strategy, it is clearly not getting you the outcome that you desire. So that's the thing about working with someone like me, an NLP trainers. Like, we're trained to look for it's not just that we're trained to look for it, it's we're trained in what to see, and all the patterns, all the meta programs, all the Milton models, all this different stuff. And we're like, oh, I see where if you were to just learn something, you'd be like, oh, no wonder why you can see it. Like, yeah, it's not like I'm some magic person, but it would take me tens, if not 20 hours or more to teach you some of this stuff to where you can go, oh, they're doing that pattern. Like, yeah, it's the Milton model, that's the meta model. They're doing this thing that's blocking them, and they don't even realize it. Now here's my point, my overall message. I know a lot of you guys have heard of therapy and life coach. Now, by the way, there's a lot of life coaches that are full of shit. I met a girl at a club who literally looked at me, And she goes, "Oh, I'm a life coach," because I never said I was a life coach. I said I'm an NLP trainer and I do Erickson hypnosis and blah 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 blah. She goes, and I remember she goes, "Well, for what purpose?" I'm like, "Well, I help people, I coach them." She goes, "Oh, I'm a life coach." I'm like, "Really? Where did you train?" She looked at me like she was lost, and she goes, "Well, what do you mean? Where did I train?" I'm like, "Well, where did you get certified?" She goes, "Certified in what?" I'm like, "Didn't you say you're a life coach?" She goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, what qualifies you?" She goes, "Well, I read a book." And I go, "You read a book?" I go, "How many?" She goes, "One." And at the time, she was charging people $150 a session. And I was like, "Really?" I met another guy who was an arborist. He was kind of an angry, bitter dude. Him and his girlfriend fought like cats and dogs, and he's been divorced 3 times. And he hands me his card at this like weekend seminar. I'm like, "What's this?" He goes, "Oh, I'm a relationship coach." I'm like, "Oh, really?" Well, I just kind of assumed he'd been through all these trainings, probably has a master's degree in psychology or something, something. And we met. He goes, I want to hear more about what you do." And so we sat down for dinner, went over some stuff, and he introduced me to this group. And after we did the group thing, he was like, "Man, everyone was really happy about what you did," because I did this it was a 4-hour workshop. And he goes, "Where did you learn this stuff?" I'm like, "Well, where did you learn your stuff?" He goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Well," because he had a business card saying, marriage and relationship coach. And he literally said, he goes, "I read a book." And I'm like, "Really? How many?" He goes, "Just one." I'm not kidding. And this, in his mind, that qualified him to be a marriage, family, relationship coach. So here I'm thinking, well, he must have been like a psychologist or something, or therapist. And I go, "So what was your career?" He goes, "Well, I've been," I think he said the words arborist. Yeah, arborist. I go, "Well, what's that?" He goes, "Well, I used to cut I used to cut trees down." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "So, like, what is your experience in being a marriage relationship counselor?" He goes, "Well, I don't have any." He goes, "I just read a book and I made this business card." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Then I met another girl, and literally, she said, "Well," and I said, "Well, where did you train? Where did you learn? How many books have you read?" And she goes, "Well, I'm Catholic." I'm like, "Well, that's nice, but so what qualifies you?" She goes, "Well, I'm Catholic." So here's my point. I think the reason why a lot of people think, "Well, yeah, I can't change and I can't this and I can't that," because you guys haven't really worked with someone who's really, really highly trained at this, who has all these strategies and skill sets and tools that can help you shift and change. So what happens is people kind of get into this, what's the word? It's almost like a trance where, "Oh, yeah, Sarah's been seeing a psychotherapist for 3 years." And I'm like, 3 years every week? Are you joking? So what ends up happening is people start to, God, what's the word I'm looking for? You just start to think, "Oh, well, that's just the way it is. I'm going to hire a life coach and see them for 2 years." Like, are you making massive shifts? Like, I had a client recently make a massive shift that just shifted his whole world. And he was like, "Holy shit." Like, literally, it was a massive shift. And he was like, "Dude, this is awesome." I'm not saying every single session is going to be like that, but with me, you generally almost damn near pretty much every session is like that. Sometimes in the beginning, it's a little rough go. Your body, your unconscious mind's trying to get comfortable with me. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with you. So, but for most people, that very first phone call, you will make a massive shift within an hour. 'Cause I'm awesome. Before the lockdowns, when people would always come over, it was kind of expected. They would fly in, or they would, they live in the Bay Area, and they'd come over and they'd walk into my living room and go, "Holy shit. I've got wall-to-wall books and manuals and home study courses and audio, everything you can imagine." And that's on top of easily going to over 50 seminars. And I don't mean, some people are like, "Oh, you mean like a weekend seminar?" No, we're talking 10-day, 2-week, 5-week trainings. I think the shortest seminars I've ever been to with Tony Robbins, which is about 4 days, 4.5, 5 days. He also did a 10-day seminar in Palm Springs. Actually, it was Indian Wells. All I'm saying is you can absolutely shift. You can absolutely change. You can get over problems. I'm not saying there's going to be one problem, but for some people, it literally might be one thing. that's blocking you and it's causing all these problems in your life. Or it could be that one thing that's creating a lot of problems. You clear that out. You might have a couple little things here and there. Okay, it depends on the person and what's going on. All I'm saying is this: you absolutely can change. Find the right practitioner. Ask them questions. Where did you train? How many certifications do you have? What are those certifications in? Like, ask them. If they said they read a book, maybe move on. God bless you guys. The purpose of this video is so you know you can change. That is what I want you to know. There's skills you can develop in unconscious communication patterns you can become conscious of. You can learn social skills. There's a series of things we work with here. And the purpose of that is so you can be awesome. I want to share one more thing with you, and I'm kind of, if you've been with me this long, I had no idea it was going to go this long. My apologies, but congratulations. Here's another thing that I realized. My beliefs around God and Jesus are very, very empowering. I started to learn. Okay, let me just put this way. The old beliefs that, oh, you're a sinner, you're going to hell. Do you fear the Lord God? No, I love God. I shifted so much stuff to where now God is an empowering figure to me and for me instead of against me. That Jesus is an empowering, loving, compassionate figure for me instead of someone guilting me and shaming me and pointing the finger at me and all these things that were taught growing up in the church. I shifted my beliefs around God and Jesus. Not like, oh, I'm just going to change. No, it's like I look in the Bible like, wait, Jesus says, in fact, if you watch the last video before this, you're like, wait a minute, Jesus didn't actually say that. Yep, that's right. A lot of people bullshitted you because they did that because then you'd feel like God was punishing you and God wanted to push you down. When I started realizing this stuff and doing the deep work and in the finding different words in the Hebrew and Greek language, etc., I was like, wait a minute, that's not what that word means at all. All of a sudden, I started to become free. There's a lot of different angles, a lot of different perspectives, and a lot of different things we can work on to shift your life to be a supporting and empowering life where your beliefs, rules, and values empower you out of truth. That's it, guys. God bless you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this video got you to finally realize you can change. That's it. If you liked this video, please click subscribe, click the bell. Go ahead and click the like button, and if you want, you can go ahead and leave a message, a comment, and if you want, you can go ahead and make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.